I was sitting on the balcony of a small cafe. It was in the heart of the city. I was sipping an espresso. It still felt warm, below. The streets were busy with quick footsteps and quiet talks. It was an afternoon like any other. Until my phone vibrated. The screen showed a name I knew. Mark. I stared at it for a few seconds. I felt a strange worry start to creep in. Then, I pressed answer. Anna. His voice came through. There was something different about how he said my name. I am calling to tell you something. I did not respond. I waited. I want a divorce. The words were direct. He spoke them without pausing. I let them hang in the quiet for a few seconds, as if I was deciding how I should feel. But there was nothing to decide. I have sold the company. His voice now sounded like a man who had just made a lot of money from a deal. Lauren and I are leaving, to start over. Lauren. The name was not new to me. She was the woman Mark thought I did not know about. The mistress he thought I was too blind to see. I set my coffee cup down. I looked out at the city. The evening sun cast golden lines across the street. It made long shadows over the road. What was Mark expecting? A scream. A very angry shout. Or maybe just one tear. I breathed in slowly. Then I replied calmly, "Congratulations." On the other end of the line, I heard him gasp. "Congratulations," Mark repeated, as if he had not heard me correctly. I smiled slightly. "If that is what you want, then good for you." Then he laughed. It was a winning, smug laugh. "I did not think you would take it this easily. You do realize, Anna, you have nothing left. The company is sold, and I own most of the money and property." I looked at my watch. Just a few more minutes. "Is that what you think?" I asked. My voice was steady. "Of course." He almost laughed loudly again. "Everything is done. My lawyers have taken care of it all. I hope you won't make this difficult. Won't try to fight for something that is already lost. You know the law is not on your side." "Oh, really?" I tilted my head. My voice was light. "Then maybe you should check again." "Mark." I hung up before he could react. In that moment, I felt a clear sense of relief, as if an invisible chain had just been cut. Mark thought he was the one in control of the game. He had no idea that this entire time, I was the one deciding what happened. As I left the cafe, my phone vibrated. It was a message from my lawyer. "It is done. He cannot sell what he no longer owns." A smirk appeared at the corner of my lips. The city looked strangely beautiful this evening. Mark thought he could walk away and take everything from me. He had no clue that while he was planning his betrayal, I was already writing the ending. I drove home, knowing exactly where he would be, sitting in his favorite chair, wearing that smug look, sure that he had one. He thought I would fall apart. He had no idea that the real game was just beginning. I parked in front of the house. I took a deep breath. The golden sunset stretched long shadows across the stone driveway. It led to the mansion we once called a home. But this place had stopped being a home a long time ago. Now it was just a stage, and tonight the show was about to begin. I stepped through the heavy wooden doors. The sounds of my heels echoed through the silent space. Mark was exactly where I expected. He was relaxing in his favorite armchair, moving a glass of red wine in his hand. Beside him, Lauren stood by the window. Her arms were crossed. Her tight red dress stood out under the chandelier's warm light, but the confidence she once had so easily was no longer there. Mark's lips curled into a condescending smile the moment he saw me. "Anna, you are finally home." He tilted his head slightly. His voice was full of satisfaction. I assume you have had time to think things over. I placed my bag on the table and slowly took a seat across from him. Yes, Mark, and it is fascinating that you think this is already over. Reaching into my briefcase, I pulled out a thick stack of papers. I placed them on the table with a clear thud. He narrowed his eyes. He looked at the stack of papers in front of him. Lauren moved uneasily. Her eyes were fixed on me. "What is this?" Mark asked. His voice was strained. I linked my fingers together, offering him a calm smile. "The truth. And I think you should read it before you continue your act." Mark picked up the papers. He flipped through the first few pages. I watched as the colour drained from his face, as the words sank in. Lauren, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "Mark." Her voice shook. It lost its usual sharpness. He slammed the papers down on the table. His eyes were hard as they met mine. "What in the world do you think you are doing, Anna?" Leaning back in my chair, I replied without strong feeling. "Just giving you a reality check." I picked up a single sheet from the stack, reading it slowly. "According to the agreement we signed 5 years ago, no sale or transfer of shares can happen without the approval of all main owners. And as you can see in these documents," I slid the paper toward him, "I now hold the majority stake." Mark blinked, as if he could not believe what he was hearing. "That is impossible," he muttered. "I own 55% of the shares." I shook my head, stopping him. "You used to own 55%. But while you were busy with your personal things," I looked at Lauren, "I quietly bought the remaining shares from other investors. I now control over 60% of the company. And do you know what that means, Mark?" I tilted my head, looking directly into his eyes. A heavy silence filled the room. Lauren looked at Mark, then back at me. Panic spread across her face. "No, no, this cannot be." "Mark, you told me you had control of the company." I let out a soft laugh. "Looks like he told you exactly what you wanted to hear." Lauren shook her head, stepping back, as if she had just realized she had gotten on a sinking ship. "Mark," she repeated, but this time her voice was full of hopelessness. Mark clenched his jaw. He gripped his wineglass so tightly that his knuckles turned white. "Anna, you are playing a dangerous game." "Not at all." I stood up, getting another set of papers from my briefcase. "But this is where things get interesting." I placed the papers in front of him. "Do you remember the $1,200 that mysteriously disappeared from the company's internal investment fund? And those contracts you signed with a fake consulting firm in Hong Kong?" Mark froze. Lauren turned pale. I leaned forward. My voice was slow but very sharp. "That is called financial fraud, Mark." I pulled out another stack of documents. My tone was cold like ice. "I have records of every suspicious transaction you have made over the past 3 years. There is enough evidence here to start a full investigation by the SEC and IRS. And guess what? I already sent a copy to my lawyer this morning." Mark quickly stood up, slamming his fist onto the table. "You dare?" I stood up as well, stopping him. "Dare to do what, Mark?" "Let you start over with Lauren while burning everything behind you." "Did you really think I was that innocent?" Lauren gasped, stepping back again before turning to Mark. You lied to me." Her voice trembled. I crossed my arms, waiting. Mark struggled to stay calm, but I could see the fear appearing in his eyes. He turned to Lauren, trying hard to find a way to make himself seem right. But she was finished listening. "Mark, I do not want to be involved in this." She nearly screamed. Panic was strong in her voice. "You promised me everything would be fine." Then, without another word, She grabbed her purse and rushed out the door without looking back. The door closed loudly behind her, leaving an eerie silence. I turned back to Mark. He stood there, his face twisted in a mix of rage and hopelessness. I shrugged, picking up the final stack of documents and placing them gently on the table. Tomorrow, the board will hold an emergency meeting. And guess what? You won't need to attend. Because, as of now, you are officially out of the company. Mark stared at me, still unable to understand the reality happening around him. I grabbed my bag and turned toward the door. Just before stepping out, I paused, looking back at him one last time. You know, Mark, I said softly, almost like a whisper in the wind. If you had simply asked for a clean divorce, I might have let you walk away without any of this happening. I opened the door, stepping out into the cool night air. But you chose betrayal. And with that, the door closed behind me. The game is over. Night had fallen over the city, but the glow from my computer screen still flickered steadily in my office. Lines of data moved across the monitor. Numbers, transactions, emails, all copied and shown clearly. Mark might have thought I was just a simple wife. But he had forgotten one key detail. I am a cybersecurity expert. Before starting the company with Mark, I worked for a major tech company. I focused on keeping money safe in computer systems. I understood exactly how systems work, how data can be changed, and more important, how to show when someone is cheating. For over a year, ever since my gut feeling told me that Mark was no longer trustworthy, I had quietly built a complex system to watch him within the company. No one, not even Mark, knew that every single one of his actions with money had been watched all along. I opened a protected file. I entered a long password, and the system started showing important data. Suspicious transactions. Over £3,800. $1,000 had been secretly taken from the company's internal investment fund. It was sent to unknown accounts I had tracked to places where money is hidden from taxes, like the Cayman Islands, Switzerland, and Singapore. Fake contracts, hundreds of thousands of dollars paid for consulting services from companies that did not exist. Proof of changing the market value. Emails between Mark and a group of brokers, where he secretly made the company's value higher, to get ready for a big sale. I clicked on a file, opening an audio recording I had taken from the company's security system. Mark's voice played. It was clear and easy to recognize. We will keep taking money from the company in small amounts. No one will notice. Once the sale goes through, we will have enough to leave, and no one will be able to find where the money went. I hit pause. The evidence was clear. I switched to the screen that showed money actions happening right now. I watched as Mark made one last desperate try to send the remaining money overseas, before it was too late. I smirked. Not so fast. Mark. I turned on the security override, blocking all suspicious money actions through the protective system I had spent years building. Within seconds, a red warning appeared on the screen. Transaction failed. Account temporarily locked. At that moment, my phone vibrated. It was my lawyer David calling. I just got confirmation from the SEC. His voice was full of excitement. They have received all the documents you sent and are starting an immediate investigation. The IRS is involved, too. Mark won't be able to escape this. I tapped my pen lightly against the desk. Good. I want them to check every single transaction, every contract he has signed in the past 2 years. Don't worry, David assured me. They won't let him off the hook. I ended the call and looked out at the city beyond my window. Somewhere across town, Mark was probably panicking, realizing his accounts had been frozen. Maybe he was calling his lawyer, trying hard to find a way out. But this time, there was no escape. I opened my surveillance system and entered the final command. In an instant, every piece of proof showing Mark's dishonest actions was automatically sent to the investigating groups, the SEC, the IRS, and even the FBI. A new message appeared from Marcus, a former colleague from the Financial Crimes Division. The files you sent are enough to open a federal investigation. Mark is not just facing fines, he could be facing criminal charges. I typed back a short reply. Good. I want him to pay for everything. Not long after, an email from the SEC's investigation team arrived in my inbox. We have begun the process of freezing all assets. Any attempt by Mark Harrison to manipulate the market further will be stopped. I smiled. Everything was happening as planned. I took a slow sip of wine, feeling a strange sense of peace settle over me. Step by step, I had taken apart everything Mark had tried to hide. He thought he was smart. He thought he could betray me, trick me, and get away without consequences. But he forgot one thing. I was always one step ahead. One step, and this time, I would not stop. I stood by the window of my office. The city lights reflected off the glass. The red wine in my glass moved gently, while my computer screen was lit up with a lot of messages and notifications. They were coming in like a strong storm. Anna, you won't believe this. The company's stock is falling sharply. Investors are pulling out. Harrison Capital has lost almost 40% of its value in just 48 hours. The bank just sent a notice. Mark Harrison's accounts have been completely frozen. I leaned back in my chair. My eyes quickly read the breaking news headlines. They were everywhere in the financial news. Mark Harrison's name was everywhere. But this time it was not with smug interviews or pictures of a rich businessman in an expensive suit. The biggest financial problem of the year. Mark Harrison under investigation for tax fraud and hiding money. Personal accounts frozen worldwide. I took a slow sip of wine, listening to the chaos happening across the city. I did not need to be there to know exactly what was going on. Mark was struggling, desperate to save the little he had left. He had always believed he was in control of the game, but now that everything was falling apart, I wondered if he had realized that I had always been one step ahead, across the city. Mark stumbled out of the elevator of the luxury hotel where he had been staying. His tie was loose. His face was pale from being tired. He had never imagined a day where he would be running from his own life. His hand shook as he took out his phone. Dialing quickly, no one answered. His personal lawyer, not answering. His financial advisor, cut off all contact. His business partners, all taking back their investments. A strong pressure tightened around his chest. He swallowed hard and rushed out through the hotel's back door. A smooth black car was already waiting. He threw himself into the back seat, slamming the door shut. I need a flight to Switzerland immediately. The driver looked at the mirror above the front window. Mr. Harrison, I think you should check the news before heading to the airport. Mark frowned and opened his banking app. A notification appeared. Account frozen. Contact your bank for more details. His breathing became shallow. He quickly tried logging into another account. A secret account no one was supposed to know about. Account locked under financial investigation order. Mark slammed his fist against the seat. Every way to escape had been blocked, while Mark was desperately looking for a way out. Lauren was also trying to save herself. She walked quickly down the sidewalk, holding her handbag tightly, as if it could protect her from the storm that was coming. Her fingers shook as she called Mark's number, but all she got was a busy signal. He had promised they would leave together. He had told her he had a plan. He had lied. A taxi stopped at the curb, and Lauren quickly got in. Devke Airport. The driver nodded, but just as the car was about to drive away, her phone vibrated, a message from her personal lawyer. Lauren, if you are connected to any of Mark's accounts, I strongly advise you to cooperate with the authorities. The FBI is involved. A cold sweat appeared on her forehead. She knew, if she did not act now, she would be pulled into the scandal with him. Her eyes lingered on another message, the one she had sent to me hours ago. A desperate call for help. She had no other choice. She pressed call. Anna, I have information on Mark. I am willing to turn over everything as long as I get protection. I could hear the panic in her voice, but I had no plan of making this easy for her. I let the silence last for a few seconds before replying. My tone was calm but very sharp. Good. Send me everything. And don't even think about running. I will know. Lauren trembled as she hung up. I knew she was wondering if she could really escape this mess, but I also knew she had no other choice. Night had fallen. I stood by my office window, watching the endless line of car lights moving through the streets below. My phone vibrated. A message from Marcus, the FBI agent. Mark Harrison was arrested this morning at a private airport in Miami. He was trying to flee to South America with a fake passport, no way out. I set my wine glass down, letting the words sink in. I had thought of many possible endings for Mark, but this felt the most fitting. A man who once stood at the top, now being taken away in handcuffs, caught in the bright lights of news cameras. Another message appeared, an unknown number. He won. I should never have trusted him. I should have known he could never protect me. But now it is too late. I did not need to check who sent it. Warren. I let the message disappear. She was not worth my time anymore. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up the latest financial report. Phoenix Innovation Group was doing very well. Since the company was changed, it had attracted large investments from some of the world's biggest funds. Deals for cybersecurity and financial security were coming in a lot. This increased our company's value by 150% in just 3 months. The media had already started calling me the woman behind the new tech revolution. Mark had once thought he could destroy me. But he forgot one thing. I did not just know how to get revenge. I knew how to build again. I stood up, walking toward the window, my eyes fixed on the view ahead. The battle was over. But this was just the beginning of a great company. No one could bring it down. The lesson from my story is simple but important. Fairness is not just about destroying someone who betrayed you. It is about building something stronger from the ruins. Mark thought he could control everything, but he forgot one truth. The truth always finds a way to show itself. In business, as in life. Trust and honesty are the most valuable things. Once lost, nothing can bring them back. I did not just get back my company, I built an empire, and the greatest lesson of all, the best way to get back at someone is to be successful. What do you think about this story? Do you agree that sometimes the best revenge is success? Share your thoughts below, and do not forget to follow the channel, so you do not miss more powerful stories about life, family, and getting things right.